We are live. That's what they say before the UFC fights. We are live. Welcome to No Dumb Questions, where each week we take the time to ask questions that we think are super important, and in other cases we answer questions that we think are super important. This is the outside edition. Those of you who were joining me earlier, you saw that I had smoked some beef ribs till the bones fell out. And now, what we're going to do is we're going to take your questions. So each week, I try to bring you guests that I think are interesting, either from entertainment, education, religion. We have some guests who are coming up who are what some might refer to as mega pastors. We have some entertainers coming, and people who I just admire, folks who I think have a really cool story. But when I'm asking them questions, I don't get to answer your questions. And each week we take the time to take the questions that you have for us and pull them together. Last week it was super cool to have Sean Robinson. Sean Robinson is a person who many of you know. She's the host of one of my TV guilty pleasures. It's called 90 Day Fiance, and Sean came through and we had what was supposed to be a 24-minute conversation turned to an hour-long conversation. So again, I didn't get a chance to answer your questions, and this week no guests, just me and you outside near the grill answering questions. So yes, I have a spot on my shirt. Someone was kind enough to point that out to me. It's because I just finished grilling. I smell like I was on fire because I have this big smoker over here. I'll show you. I'll pan it over. There's a smoker over there. Actually, hold on. Let me just turn it that way up. See the smoker, all that stuff over there. So now we're back. All right, so I do have a stain on my shirt, so don't ask that question. Where did I get the stain? I got the stain because I was over there smoking from about 10:30 this morning to about 4:30, 5 o'clock today. So I want to get to your questions. I see you all hopping on. I'm going to go rapid fire, and I'll do my best to answer. I don't know what the questions are. I asked that I not see the question before, so my answer is my answer. Whatever it is, it is. Whatever it's not, it's not. In the meantime, feel free to put your questions in the comment section, and I will do what I can to answer your questions as we go forward. All right, first question.
With all the violence taking place in schools, do you think police should be in schools?
Question was, with all the violence that's taking place in schools, do I think the police should be in schools? In Marjorie Stone Douglas, there were police officers. In Columbine, there were police officers. Police officers are not going to stop anyone from murdering anyone who wants to murder people. Police officers don't stop crime. In many cases, they hopefully solve crime. And in more than a few cases, actually have committed their own set of crime. We have to have a much larger conversation about violence as a society. There's something endemic in the American psyche that we celebrate violence. It's not just Americans. From as far back as the Greeks and every other group of people, you'll find in many African nations, you'll find that there's something that we find entertaining about watching people hurt one another. Where we are now, though, is a place that we have never been. In no place in the human experience do we know of people murdering children. This is a phenomenon for which I don't know that anyone has a real answer. On the right, they'll say that there's a need for mental health. I believe in large part because they think that a white man who goes and murders people somehow wouldn't do so if they were in their right mind. When those same people on the right see African Americans and Latin people murdering themselves, they don't call for mental health. They don't call for any such thing. They see that as part of the subculture of black and Latin people, and so they just accept it as part of that community. But when they see their own murdering children, then they say there must be something wrong. There must be a mental health issue, and in some cases even blaming marijuana. That's not what it is. We have to accept the fact that guns do kill people. In many cases, guns kill children. Some people say, well, what about if we harden the exits? We only have one exit in and one exit out. That's a dumbass thing to say. If you have 800 children in a building and you have another 100 faculty and then another 50 staff to support them, you have almost 1,000 people in the building. I want you to do the math on this. 1,000 people trying to get out of 2 exits in the case of a fire. It's just dumb. It's just dumb. If armed guards were going to stop people from murdering people, then Fort Hood would not have happened, but it did. The shipyard in Washington, D.C. would not have happened, but it did. People kill people when they have guns, especially when they have weapons of mass destruction, when they have weapons of war. And there is no reason in a civilized society for there to be guns. The reason why there was a Second Amendment was because this predates the Marines, the Coast Guard, and in many cases, many of the police stations that we had, there were few, I should say, armed groups protecting our country. And so civilians were required to do so. At the time that the Second Amendment was put in place, black people were still slaves. Quite a number of things were different back then. So to suggest that we have to keep it in place because it was put in place at a time when things were different, it doesn't pay attention to where we are as a society. Strange, you should ask the question about with all the murders in schools, should we put cops in schools? I was just having a conversation with my youngest son. We went and saw a movie last night that was fantastic, actually. It was Elvis. What was it, baby?
Elvis.
Just Elvis is the name of it? Okay. My wife is over here. So, Elvis is the name of it. It's a fantastic movie. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to go to the movies. I did not want to go to the movies because I don't like going to the movies. After Aurora and the mass murder that took place during the Batman filming, there's my dog, no matter what we're doing. He's going to let you know that he's here. That was in a movie theater. And so I don't feel comfortable going to the movies anymore. I don't. I don't like sitting in a dark theater. Last night some ass threw something during the movie. The kids running through the movie. I don't feel safe there. I don't want my family going to the movies, but they were going to go, so I went with them. That's not putting... Is the question then, do you put cops in the movie theater? How many do you have in the dark? Now back to the question about cops in schools. There are police officers in schools already, and they don't make schools safer at all, quite frankly. There's no evidence that shows that putting police officers in schools make schools safer. In fact, the schools with the largest percentage of police officers are likely some of the most unsafe schools that you will ever imagine. And in many cases, what you find is that if we really break down what this supposition is about putting cops in schools, I want you to think of it this way. In our school, our first school in Hartford, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 ground floor entrances into the building. If you were going to put police in the building to protect that building, you need to put 15 armed police officers or 15 armed guards with their sights focused on the door for the entirety of the time that you were there. Just doesn't make sense. We don't want to have the honest conversation. The honest conversation is that guns do kill people. They just do. And there's no way to keep 4th of July celebrations safe when you got lunatics who can buy multiple weapons. Background checks don't do a goddamn thing because a background check only tells you something if the person has already tried to murder someone. That's not who's... the background checks would have stopped none of the murders that we've seen so far in schools. So it brings us back to here. No people have ever had to deal with soft targets such as schools becoming a primary target for murderers. We've always had violence. I'm a fan of old TVs, and I watch Gunsmoke, where they killed in every episode. A very old show where they killed in every episode, but the thought was that they were killing bad guys, that there was a beef. Not then, not ever has anyone ever imagined that we would be shooting babies in school. So not only do I not feel safe in a movie theater, it's hard to feel safe in our schools. It's hard to feel safe anywhere. And there's nothing that I can say to a family that can make them feel like, you know what, yeah, you're safe here. You drop your child off here. No lunatic is going to blast their way into our school. It's just not possible. You have to have the conversation. I get it. You dig your guns. You're awesome. Go you. Whatever. But you don't need a machine gun to shoot deer. The hell are you trying to shoot? How many deer are you shooting? Are you taking out a herd? Come on, man. When the Second Amendment was enacted, the types of armaments that we have access to were not mass produced. They didn't even invent them until many years afterwards. If you want to know how to keep children safe in schools, you have to take guns off the streets. And it's not the illegal guns, because none of these people who've gone up and shot up these schools brought illegal weapons in. They were all legally purchased weapons. All of them. Want to know what? It's not a cop coming into the school, sitting there, and waiting for someone to enter through one of the 15 ground floor entrances. It's getting rid of the method of murdering, which is the gun.
Many teachers come into the schools with great ideas, but dealing with disrespectful kids and their parents are making them second guess their decision to become a teacher. Do you think this is why there is a teacher shortage?
That's a great question. The question is, it starts with a statement. Many teachers come into school with great ideas. But after dealing with disrespectful children and parents, they don't want to do the job anymore. Do I think that that's a reason why there is a teacher shortage? Hell yeah. Yes. There was a time when I would have said no. There was a time when I would have said, just buck it up. Just get over yourself. You know, like, do a good job. I'm not that guy. My views have grown, matured, I'd like to say. It's not a binary conversation. I have seen parents come to our schools with the sole purpose of hurting teachers. You gotta ask yourself, what the hell could have happened in the 7th grade math class that would make an adult get in a vehicle, come to the school, wait for a teacher after school, or try to enter the building during the school with the sole purpose of trying to injure that individual? I cannot tell you how many times I have stood between a parent and a teacher, a parent and an administrator, a parent and another child. Nobody gets paid that damn much that they want to go to any job, anywhere, and deal with that BS. Nobody. I don't care how much you love this stuff. I don't care how much it means to you. What the hell do you think? And here's what's even scarier. The fact that this lunatic didn't have any friends in her or his life to say, dog, what the hell are you doing? Are you really talking about getting in your car, going down to the school, and fighting the principal? Are you freaking serious? Are you serious right now? The fact that there was no one from the point of that decision all the way through, sometimes a 45-minute drive or subway. In some cases, 90 minutes worth of public transportation and bring your ass down to the school to fight the staff? So, yeah, I do think that there are really well-intended teachers, principals, deans, social workers, lunch staff, who just get tired. Especially, I don't know what's going on in the suburbs, so I can't speak to that. I don't know what y'all are dealing with. I see you acting up at your Board of Education meetings. I see y'all up there fighting in the board meetings, so don't think that I don't see how foolish y'all act. But I'm just talking about what I do. I work in urban schools. I work in schools in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and Harlem, New York. That's what this one is. And in the Bronx. And I have seen firsthand parents coming to the school literally threatening to kill. And let me just be really clear here, just so that I'm crystal clear. I saw this year in one of our schools a person who identified themselves as a parent reaching into their jacket, standing in front of me, telling me that they would make me believe it. And I said, whoa, sis, hold on a second. I introduced myself. I'm there in a bow tie, a suit. The kids are referring to me as Dr. Perry. She knows who the hell I am. I don't have any quarrel with this woman at all. I'm just trying to diffuse the situation. I got my hands like this. I'm saying, look, sis, you don't really want to do this. This is not what you want to do. Can we just talk right now? We're out on 104th and Madison Avenue in Harlem, New York. And I'm saying, whoa, come on. Now, I'm saying this after I just jumped in between her and one of our deans who she was punching in the chest. She just kept punching him in the chest. Just punching him in the chest. So I jumped in between there. Hey, sis. Whoa. Can we talk? I'll make all you MFers bleed. I'm on blood. She's telling me she's in a gang. And I'm saying to her, sis, can you just tell me why you're this upset? Just why? F you, okay, you got all that. Tell me why you're this upset. And we can maybe figure out a way to solve the problem. I have seen this year after year only get worse and worse. So yeah, there are people who've had enough. They've had enough. I don't want to acknowledge that. I don't want that to be the case. I want to tell you, no. Y'all are bugging. No. People don't come to the school threatening to kill people. But they do. In that same instance, before I got to that woman, I'd broken up a fight between a 7th grade girl and a grown man who was he was hitting her. Police were called. Police did nothing. They did nothing. Arrested no one. So there's your cops in the school. NYPD did nothing. No one was arrested. Not one person. So do I think that there are people who saw that and thought, nah, I'm good. I could do something else for 9, 10, 12 hours a day. Do I think that? Yeah, I do think that. Am I one of them? No. That's what I signed up for. I knew what I was getting myself into when I did this. I was fully aware of what we came here to do. We are working in a community that is dealing with significant sicknesses. It is a sick community. Doesn't mean everybody in there is sick, but the community itself is sick. It is struggling mightily with very real issues, deeply embedded issues. I knew that. I know that every single day. I'm fully aware that when I go to work, it may not go my way. Fully aware of that. I'm fully aware just walking into my office at one of my schools, things could go miserably wrong. And that could be the last day for me. But that's a place I'm going to for work. I got to walk by a whole bunch of people's apartments to get there. And so while I have to deal with the threat while I'm there at work or going to work, my children have to deal with that threat all day, every day. So it's hard for me to feel bad for myself when I get to choose to be there or not. It's hard for me to feel like my safety is more important than theirs. The children did not choose to be in those circumstances. That is not their choice. I did. And I could decide to do something different. So far be it for me to somehow make myself the victim here. So I struggle because I know what people get afraid of. I see it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you a lie. I have too many stories from just this year, of faculty's lives being threatened. From just this year. But I also know that every single day after school, when we stand out there and do bus duty or dismissal, every single day I say a little prayer in hopes that our children will come back tomorrow safe. The weekends are not awesome because then I got to sit there and worry all weekend about whether or not something bad is going to happen to them. And then, real talk, I hate the summers. That means my kids are going to be home for 8 to 10 weeks. In the same community that my loved ones are concerned about me walking through, they're living there. So do I think that there are teachers and principals and deans and lunch staff who look up and say, to hell with this, I'm not doing it anymore? Yeah. This year, I absolutely think it. I'm not one of them. I'm not going to be one of them. I recognize that if I were an emergency room physician, I would, in certain communities, I would deal with gunshot victims or car accidents or other childbirths or elderly dying. It would be a condition of my employment. It would be a choice that I made. I made this choice, and actually, I'd say more accurately, I'm called to do this. This is what I don't want to do anything other than this. I've been very fortunate to have the opportunity to do television and radio and all this other stuff. And there's nothing that I've ever done, writing books, there's nothing that I've ever done, ever. There's no one who I've ever met. If I'm sitting with Bishop Jakes, I think he's got a super dope gig. And I think it's awesome the things he does outside of being a pastor. I think it's super dope. I have some pretty wealthy friends who they do business stuff. I don't really know what it is, but they make a lot of money. And when they describe their jobs to me, I just think, wow, that just sounds so terrible, sounds so boring. I know bankers, I know actors, I know a lot of people who other people think the world of, and they would love to spend a day in their life. I don't want to. It just doesn't motivate me. The coolest thing I get to do is I go to football games and I get to yell at refs and I get to see them, some of the same angry parents who said they want to fight me at the game, and she can act like she doesn't want to talk to me, and that's cool because I'm not going to talk to her, but we're going to both celebrate when her son scores a touchdown. I get to do that. I get to work with really smart people to come up with solutions that have plagued people for generations. How do you take poor minority children and put them in a school that has high expectations, so much so that you send 100% of your graduates on to four-year colleges since 2005? Solving these, what seem to be intractable problems. Yeah, I mean, hell yeah, it's gonna, I work in some of the most dangerous communities in the United States of America. I really do. I really do. I was at our Harlem location. We have a new building. Earlier this week, I guess it was Tuesday, and when I was there, I saw some folks from the community. They had the candles. They were setting them up to set up a memorial across the street from our new building. Literally, it was on our steps. Like, it was literally across the street from our new building. I mean, that person didn't have a heart attack. Our building isn't even done. I'm still enrolling kids in the school. I just feel like one of the luckiest people on earth that I get to wake up and do this every day. I do. I feel like I have friends who are comedians. Like some of the biggest comedians, some of the kings of comedy. At least 2 of them are my friends. And they're super funny, and they're super fun, and they're cool to hang out with. And I want them to do what they do. I don't want to do what they do. So if you ask me the question, do I think that there are teachers, and let's just use it as a group, educators who get tired of crazy-ass parents doing stupid-ass mess? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I know it. I know it. I'm not one of them. I ain't going nowhere. You can be as crazy as you want to be, but I'll be right here when you get here. And let's just hope that we can work something out so we can get your child to a 4-year college. Because I know that if I can get your child to a 4-year college, I can make them another $800,000 more over the course of their life than they would have with a high school diploma. I can make them almost twice as much money per year if they only had a high school diploma, and I can change the fate of your family. I can actually take it from you being poor to you being middle and upper middle class, and quite frankly, maybe that person goes on to create other opportunities for other people's children. Ain't nobody gonna be here forever. So the time that you get to spend on this earth, make it worthwhile. I get to say, I'll make it worthwhile. Let me say this to you, because as I've shared with you, on January 3rd, I had a stroke and was hospitalized for a week in intensive care. And when I came out, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a surgeon, and we were talking about what happened, and he has no bedside manner, at least for me. So we were talking, we were old friends, and I told him that my wife had told me that I had a 10% chance of making it, without significant injury. And he said, "No, that's not true." He said, "You didn't have it. You didn't have that good of a chance." He said, in his 25 years as a surgeon, I'm the first person he's seen going through the kind of stroke that I had without any significant challenges afterwards. So I said, "Wow, that's sobering." And so he asked me, he's a what you might call a religious person, and so he said to me, he said, "Do you feel like you need to reconsider your life?" He knows what I'm committed to. He knows that this is me. This education thing, this is my whole gig. He said, "Do you think like you need to reconsider what you do?" I said, "No, I'm good." He said, you don't feel like maybe you need to go out and make more money, or like take more vacations or do stuff like that? Vacation from what? Money to do what? Vacation from what I love? From being around our kids? Nah. Why would I do that? That's punishment to me. When you have the opportunity to do something that you love, you have to accept that a part of what you're doing is going to come with some headaches, some trauma, and in my case, threats to your life. I am fully aware of that. I am aware of what happens each time I go to work. But I'm even more aware of the fact that I am visiting a dangerous community. My children are living in a dangerous community. So I can't justify thinking that my safety, my life, is more valuable than theirs. I chose it, they didn't. So it's my obligation to do what I can to engage those people who want to be teachers and principals and deans and lunch staff and social workers and custodians and security officers who really are about that life. Come on with it. There's enough room on the front lines for people who care about kids. There's enough room out here for people who are committed to it, who don't complain every goddamn time somebody asks them to do something about the work that they have to do, who don't ask to be paid for every time that they pick something up off the floor or come in on a Saturday, who don't make this about their work-life balance, who don't make this about them. If you're one of those cats, please, come on. Let's go. Let's go change the world together. Let's do something super cool. Let's win big. Like let's do that. Let's change the world. And, when your time comes, and it will, as will mine, and someone asks you what you've done with your life, whether you believe it's someone on high or just someone who is an old friend who doesn't necessarily pull punches, your answer could be the same as mine. Man, I can't believe I get to do this every day. I can't wait to do it tomorrow, this weekend, and the like. Question?
How important do you think trauma-informed schools are in the inner city?
The question is, how important do I think trauma-informed schools are in the inner city? So, I think that it is vital to understand that by virtue of the fact that you are poor, minority, and in a dangerous community, the research is clear. You are overcoming the same trauma as those who are in what we would otherwise label as a war zone. The conditions that our children in many of the urban communities are enduring are the same as many and any war-torn country. So the answer to the question of how important do I think that trauma-informed schools is it's vital. Capital Prep is a trauma-informed school. We don't call it that because that's the new now wow. Before it was called Whole Child, and before that it was called something else. We have a model in our school where every single child is assigned to an advisor. They meet with their advisor every single day as part of a smaller school group called advisory. During that advisory, they do a check-in. Part of the check-in is to honestly check in to see how they're doing, see what's going on in their life, and to use the collective emotional language that they're developing, because this is really essential to trauma-informed education. It's teaching children how to communicate their emotions in a positive and productive way. Too many times in urban communities or poor communities, we limit our language to angry. I'm mad, I'm mad, I'm mad. It's a reaction to virtually anything that is uncomfortable, because that is a way to show that you're tough. But in our model, we expect our advisors to work with our scholars of all ages, from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, to manifest their emotions in much more positive and productive ways, to be able to speak through the challenges that they are going through, to create a safe space emotionally such that they can say that there's something other than mad, that they can say things like, I'm hurt. It hurt me when you said that to me. That they can make themselves vulnerable, that they can deal with the development of their sexuality, whether it be gay, straight, bisexual, lesbian, transgender, or questioning. They can deal with their issues of colorism, whether they feel like they're too dark or too light. They can deal with their body images, whether they feel like they're too big, too small, or not developing hair at the right time or in the right places. These are the types of emotional language skills that we hope to develop with our children, so that they can begin to recognize that there's more than just being mad. There's more than just being angry. So many boys in particular that I work with will tell me that they have anger issues. What the hell is that? Got anger issues. Doesn't even mean anything. But what happens very often is they're told by people who love them that they have anger issues. And what that means is that they get angry. Well, who the hell doesn't get angry? And what my reaction in many cases to that is to show them that there's force beyond that anger, and you don't want the force. Let's choose a different approach. Force for them is that you say you're angry. Well, you think you're angry. How mad do you think I could get? So let's not figure out who can escalate this thing the most. Let's de-escalate. Let's work our way back. Let's develop an emotional language that makes you feel safe and like a boy, so you don't feel like you're a punk. But on the same token, you feel like you've been heard. Because the rage of a community is really what the trauma does. What trauma does is, I want you to think of it this way. People don't often like to compare the development of children to animals, but there's a lot to be seen in them both. And so it is just worth noting. If you've ever adopted or seen an abused animal, you'll recognize that they have one of two really polar reactions. They either cower every time you go to touch them, they react that way, or they react. There is no middle. An animal who has been abused, depending upon the level of the abuse, doesn't come to seek affection. They've come to accept that affection is not going to happen. So they either expect that you're going to attack them, which means they're going to defend themselves by putting their hands in front of them or their body in front of them, or they attack in anticipation of that. What we often see in our schools and urban schools is children are so used to being spoken to in the most aggressive and violent terms. I mean really, really, really violent terms. Parents, y'all, god damn, man. You gotta watch how you talk to your kids. I'll fucking kill you. I'll take you, like, he's 6, man. I promise you he didn't do anything worth murdering him. So you don't mean that, but because you never developed your language, you can't tell him I'm disappointed in you. You can't tell him I'm sad when you do that. Mommy doesn't feel good when you act that way. You can't speak that way. Daddy doesn't appreciate that. You didn't learn that. I didn't learn to speak that way. I learned the same thing you did. I brought you in this world, I'll take your ass out. Right? That was supposed to be the high water mark of parenting, but it's not. It's actually the low water mark. And that, what it does is it takes trauma and it compounds that trauma, and it compounds that trauma with more trauma. So what you end up with is you end up with a grandparent who speaks in extremely violent ways to her child, who then talks to her child, the grandchild, in extremely violent ways. The children speak to each other in very violent ways, and they create this untenable set of circumstances where almost instantly, each time someone feels threatened, which there's this existential threat, by the way. It's this non-stop loop of a threat. It's constant threat, constant. Why are you looking at me? She looked at me. Because in their mind, they think that if you look at me, then you're about to do something, right? The dog that's been beaten too much, and so it cowers. Just the look. And so in our community, a look could lead to death. In our community, a joke, making fun of somebody, making them feel smaller than, can lead to a fight. Cannon does. A post on Instagram. Every goddamn week we deal with somebody wanting to fight somebody over something that they said, and in some cases it's not even what they said. It's a misreading of what was written. But when you don't have the emotional language, when you don't have the capacity to speak through your emotions, you're compelled to establish your sense of authority and safety through violence, the threat of violence. You don't know me, I'll do this, I'll do that. Okay, but over what? Over what? This is the same approach that those people who are currently in war-torn countries are living under. They're sitting there with weapons clutched to their chests, reacting to every bump in the day or night. That's what our children live in. So because that's how our children live, that's what they expect. And when they expect that, when they see someone, a teacher, a principal, a dean, a classmate, saying something to them that they find to be threatening, they're trained to react. I was told by my father in pre-kindergarten that if somebody hits you, you pick up the biggest thing that you can hold and you hit them with it. And if you don't beat his ass, I was told, I'm going to beat yours. So the supposition was that I was going to fight and win. And I was going to use every means within my power to do so. It is no wonder that I was kicked out of pre-K. It is no wonder that I was left back in the 3rd grade. I was trained in the same violent language that if somebody says something to you, you say something back. If somebody looks at you wrong, you let them know. Ours is a community that has been put upon for centuries. Centuries. We feel a threat from the outside. We feel threats inside. We feel threats within our own community. I was in New Orleans a couple years back, and the former mayor showed me. He has these 6-inch binders, 6 inches, this big, 6-inch binders, and in them were all of the gun violence deaths, murders. And his point to me was, almost every single one of these young men and women knew their murderer. So when you know that you could be killed by a former youth football teammate, an AAU coach, a relative, an ex-girlfriend, an ex-boyfriend, and then you throw the cops on top of that, I mean, come on. Of course you're on edge. You'd be a fool not to be. If you're walking through those communities like whistling, you're bugging. Like, you've got to have your head on a swivel. One of my colleagues was, this was in Harlem, on the platform this year, and looked down and watched somebody be stabbed. This is America. This is what we're dealing with right now. So yeah, you got to have schools that have trauma-informed instruction. You have to teach. The root of trauma-informed instruction is first accepting that these conditions and these communities are so dangerous that children are dying, and they're not dying of mass murderers. They're dying at the hands of other children. We haven't even gotten to the conversation around drugs or alcohol. You're just talking about pure garden variety violence. You can't walk from our former location. You couldn't walk 2 blocks without seeing 3 memorials. It's like a goddamn graveyard. Like, literally, there's one there, one there. You just keep walking past them. I mean, they're just so much so that there are stores in the hood that just sell memorial. Like, you don't. Where else do you buy the candles? Those long candles, right? The ones in the glass with the different saints on them. I defy you to go to a wealthy community and try and find them. Go to Greenwich and try and find those long candles. Go to Beverly Hills and try and find those long candles. Go to the wealthiest community in your respective state and try and find them. Think about this. There's an actual market. I don't even know where they make them, but I know where to get them. I know where to get the candles. I know where to get the lanyards printed to put the RIP on it. I know where to get the t-shirts printed. In Philly, there's a brother whose primary business is airbrushing pictures of dead children onto t-shirts so that people can wear them to children's funerals. So when this is the world within which our children wake up in every single day, we're not even adding on the layer of violence that they get to see on TikTok or Facebook or whatever the hell they like. We're not even talking about that violence. We're just saying just the real violence that's in their community. Yeah, you've got to teach them how to communicate through the pain of the moment. You have to communicate. You have to teach them how to communicate through. So in our school, we have advisory. We also want our children to be part of a team so that, again, they feel like they belong to somebody. So their advisory is a small group. Their team is a small group. And then we want them to be involved in other activities to show how they can help the community through their social justice projects. What we want them to do is to understand that they're loved. no matter how bad it is, no matter how we beef even within our family, that you know another way to communicate your emotions, and you have to do that. So I believe trauma-informed instruction is vital. Whatever we call it now, it's trauma-informed. Like I said before, as a whole child. Before that, it was something else. But the key to it is acknowledging the danger and the impact that danger of the community, the existential threat, is having on the children's lives, and training them to communicate through emotions. One, about the broader context, but honestly, much of what we deal with at the school level is, he doesn't like me anymore, she doesn't like me anymore, I like this girl, she doesn't like me. It's that. This boy doesn't like these two people are not friends anymore. The biggest issues that we confront are not the global issues of violence in the community. That just seems to just sit on their shoulders like soot. The biggest issues that we deal with are the interpersonal issues from one child to the other. Their inability to be able to say to a kid, "You know, that really hurt my feelings when you call me fat," or when you picked on me about my mother being gay. That really made me feel sad. It's those kind of phrases, and it's that kind of language that we need to arm our children with. And that's the key to trauma-informed work. All right, so folks, thank you. I see that your questions have been coming up, but as you see, you're a little ways away from me. I couldn't answer more of your questions. I went longer than I was supposed to, but you are worth it. Thank you so much for coming to No Dumb Questions. Next week, we got a really special guest. I, again, won't be able to answer your question, but I will be asking them theirs. If there's somebody who you think I should talk to, if there are topics that you think are important, that you'd like to hear the perspective of somebody who's actually doing it, not just teaching about it at a university level or talking about it on Twitter or whatever the thing is that moves somebody, or writing white papers or anything like. You actually want to see people who, see what a person who is part of this solution, fact-finding, then send them. And I'd like to see what I can do. Also, very excited to be traveling again. So I will be in Vegas next week for a really cool conference, and then shortly thereafter I will be in Syracuse, New York, and we've got a lot more dates coming. Our calendar is filling up, but if you'd like me to come hang out with you at your organization or college or company, please reach out to us, because the calendar is filling up, and because I love what I do. I'll be honest with you, we say no very often to the opportunity to go out, just because it means that I have to leave what I really enjoy doing. So we want to make sure that we connect with organizations that we feel are consistent with our message and the goals that we have of increasing educational access to Black and brown children all over the world. That's thus why we spend a good amount of time in the Caribbean, and have spoken to some folks all the way on the continent of Africa and up in our friends to the north in Canada. So, No Dumb Questions. Thank you so much for coming out today. I appreciate you, and goodbye. God bless. Peace. To the right. To the other right. There you go. Almost. I'll do it. Thank you.